he pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed, and months and weeks went by, and years went by, and he kept pushing against the rock. And finally, 4 or 5 years later, he gets frustrated with God. And he gets discouraged, and the enemy starts to come along. His friends come and look at him, and they're like, you're crazy. And he keeps pushing on the rock. But then he gets frustrated. He goes back in, and he gets on his knees, and he says, God, that rock ain't going to move. And God says to him, son, I never asked you to move the rock. I asked you to push against the rock. And so sometimes our expectation of actually moving something God called us just to push against doesn't match up, right? My expectation doesn't match up with the calling of God. Or maybe I put some words in God's mouth. You ever done that? You're like, okay, if 35 people would just show up to church one week, okay? If 50 people, and only 6 show up, or 7, okay? And then there's frustration, right? That builds up. You're saying, God, you called me to do this. You called me to pastor a big mega church, okay? And I keep pushing against the rock, oh God, I keep pushing. And God didn't ask me to be the pastor of a mega church. He asked me to push against a rock, okay? He asked me to pray. He might have asked me to worship. He might have asked me to study my Bible. And I have to be obedient to what he called me to. He didn't ask me to move it. So God says to the man, he says, son, I'll move the rock for you. Okay? And he might send an earthquake. He might send a bulldozer. He might send whatever he wants to, and the rock will move. But in the meantime, here's a man pushing against a rock all day with ripply muscles, big shoulders, and he's got thick thighs, and he's all strong and beefy and looking good for the work of the Lord. Amen? God transformed the man, okay, because he was doing what God called him to do.